Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Katz, and welcome to Thursday's second half kickoff edition of WeAreSC.com's Inside the Trojans Huddle, where we do tell it like it is. Friends, Inside the Trojans Huddle is a game-like panel discussion that is posted on Tuesdays and Thursdays on WeAreSC.com and features WeAreSC columnists, staff writers, and historians. We start off first with the pregame show, where we introduce our panel members for this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, and then give you the latest USC football news. Let's meet Thursday's panelists. A WeAreSC columnist who writes WeAreSC.com's Monday Morass, Yay or Nay, and Sunday Takeaways, in addition to regular season football and basketball practice reports. He also hosts his own podcast show entitled Locked On USC. Marc Kulkin, a former William Jewell College defensive back and WeAreSC columnist who writes the popular WeAreSC.com column Musings with Arledge, now has his own weekly WeAreSC.com video show, Musings with Arledge, and is a graduate of the USC Law School, Chris Arledge. And a WeAreSC columnist who writes the Fridays Obvious and the Not So Obvious, IMHO Sunday, and is an active member of the Football Writers Association of America, your moderator and producer of Inside the Trojans Huddle, Greg Katz. Before we kick off Thursday's edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, here's a few of the latest USC headlines heading into this weekend. The Trojans coaching staff of Lincoln Riley continue to recruit, check the transfer portal, and prepare for the 2023 Goodyear Cotton Bowl against 11-2 and number 16 Tulane Green Wave. And on the odds maker front, the Trojans are a slim 1.5 point favorite to defeat Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. And as a courtesy reminder for those of you that are not currently a subscriber member of WeAreSC.com, right now for $10, you can access all the WeAreSC premium stories, analysis, and videos. The current new member deal gives you complete coverage throughout this season, the bowl game, recruiting, spring football, all the way up to next season's WeAreSC.com cycle, which ends on August 31st, 2023. All right, we kick off the second half and third quarter with a series of intriguing questions. Panel, do you expect everyone on the 2022 USC team to be ready for the Cotton Bowl? And are there any other players who can decide not to play? We lead off, of course, with Marc Kulkin. Is everybody going to show up, Mark? Or are there going to be players that decide at the last minute, I'm out of here?
With Lincoln Riley, I think if they show up, they're going to play. I don't think you're going to have any opt-outs unless they're planning to, go to the NFL. And off the top of my head, I can think of 2, maybe 3 players that might, check off that box. But I'm not hearing anything right now. So at this moment, unless somebody jumps in the portal or they're not healthy enough to play, I anticipate everybody on that's currently on the roster to be in Dallas.
Chris, are you as confident as Mark?
I don't know. I mean, it's common these days for guys who are going to the draft not to play in a bowl game. You have a guy like Andrew Voorhees who's sort of banged up the second half of the year. Does he come back and play in the Cotton Bowl? I have no idea. There's no way for me to know that. Nobody's announced they're out. So you would think that if guys haven't announced they're out, they're probably going to play. Caleb Williams, obviously the biggest question mark. I don't know what to make of him. So I don't know. I don't know how any of us could know unless we know the players and have talked to them. I have not.
Well, I'm going to go into the crystal ball and say it's getting a little late to say I'm not going to play.
Yeah.
I think this team is culturally together. I don't think they want to go out with a loss. I think they really do love each other and they want to play with each other one more time. So I'm going to say that unless something drastic happens, you're going to see everybody playing. Maybe Voorhees, maybe not, only because we don't know the extent of his injury. This has kept him out. But, there's been a healthy time to recover. And, he was in New York for the ceremony. So if he's healthy enough to be moving around there, he might be healthy enough to play in the game.
Brett was in New York also, Greg, and he was standing on one foot. So
I didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't see him standing on one foot, but maybe you did. If he's able to, if Voorhees is able to do it, obviously Nealon's not going to play. We already knew that. In the end, I think they'll all be there. I think the only question mark is really Kalen. We'll talk about that in a second. Second question here, and I think I know the answer, but I might be a contrarian on this. Do you think that wide receiver Jordan Addison, well, let's put it this way, should he return to USC to play in 2023, Mark? Should he come back?
Should he? No. If you are considered a first round draft pick, you go become a first round draft pick. So unless, I think I mentioned this on Tuesday's episode, unless USC, and when I say USC, unless the NIL part of USC steps up with a really nice compensation package, Jordan Addison needs to go to the NFL. I would be shocked if he came back for another year. You saw what happened. He came back this year for one season. Everyone anticipated. He missed 3 games with an injury. That's a risk. And I don't know if, like I said, unless the compensation package is worth it, you got to go to the NFL.
Chris, does he have to go to the NFL?
I guess nobody has to, but I think he probably should. You can make an argument for quarterbacks to come back for an extra year because playing quarterback in the NFL is so difficult. And the likelihood that a college star will go to the NFL and fail is so high that you can make an argument for an NFL, for a guy who is going to be a first round pick at quarterback to come back for another year, especially if he has a coach that's going to be able to help him further develop. It's really tough to make that argument about a wide receiver. If Jordan Addison's going to be a first round pick and everybody seems to think he will be, then this is probably the right time to go. I wish him the best if that's what he does, and I'll be shocked if he doesn't.
I don't think he had a great season. I was a little surprised that he was first team all Pac-12 because he did miss games. I think he would say that he didn't feel he had the season he wanted. Not his fault, of course. The fact that he's hanging in there to play against Tulane apparently is indication that he wants to continue to show his skills, and maybe he'll have a big game and he'll say, you know what, this is exactly what I needed, so therefore I'm going to go to the NFL. Do I think he'll go to the NFL? If I was a betting man, I'd say he would go to the NFL. But honestly, it wouldn't shock me if he came back. If he thinks he's going to be anything less than a first round draft pick, he may not decide to go to the NFL. He knows that SC is going to have a good team. He knows that Caleb Williams is returning. So, stranger things have happened. I would say that obviously he's going to think about the injury that he had, and is he willing to roll the dice and not be injured or dramatically injured in 2023? Plus, if he doesn't go to the NFL, he's not drawing a full NFL paycheck either. So it'll be something interesting to see what he does, but I wouldn't be shocked if he goes to the NFL at all. Okay. At the Heisman Trophy ceremony, Caleb Williams repeated that he plans on playing in the Cotton Bowl against Tulane. Caleb said it was such conviction, but do you actually believe that he can overcome a significant hamstring injury to actually play? Who will Lincoln Riley listen to this time around? The USC training staff or quarterback Caleb Williams? Mark, who's he going to listen to?
I said it last week. There's absolutely zero reason why Caleb needs to play in this game. Zero, none. So I'm sure he wants to play. He's going to make every effort to play. So that's where the conviction comes from. He's just a competitive guy. If I'm Lincoln Riley, I'm saying, you know what, Caleb, sit down, coach up Miller Moss from the sideline. Let's give him the opportunity. We'll see you at spring camp day 1.
Chris, what do you think? What's the call going to be? Does he play or not?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he wants to. I think Caleb Williams would play if he lost his leg, if they let him on the field. Hamstrings are tough, and I'm skeptical that he's going to be healthy. And if he's not healthy, I don't want to see him play. 1, it's not good for him, and 2, it's not good for the team. If he can't move, then put Miller Moss back there and give him the first team reps. But I also can imagine that Lincoln Riley has no desire to tell Tulane what's going to happen and would like to string them along as much as possible. So I suspect we're going to hear a lot about game time decisions with Caleb Williams, and I'll also be very surprised if he ends up playing in this game.
Yeah, when I watched the acceptance speech and everything, he was so convincing that I got to get ready for Tulane. It made me think maybe he's doing a little bit of coaching psychology here, making it sound so certain that he's going to play that they're going to think he's going to play when he actually knows deep down he's not going to play. And if he doesn't play, the good news would be Miller Moss is going to have, 3 weeks to, get in the saddle and ride the horse there, so to speak. And I think that Lincoln Riley will devise a game plan that will feature Miller Moss at his best. I think he's a good quarterback. As much as I want SC to finish with a win in the Cotton Bowl, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I still think they can beat Tulane if they get everything right and Miller Moss gets enough reps. I think they can do it. They'll be motivated to do it. The shock of not having Caleb in there will have worn off weeks ago because they'll already know what's happening in practice. Kind of switching gears a little bit here. I know, Chris, you live in Dallas. I've been to AT&T Stadium many times. For those people who are considering making the trip to Dallas for the Cotton Bowl, from your experience, Mark, I don't know. Have you been to the Cotton Bowl, Dallas area before?
Oh, I was at the Alabama game.
Okay. So your experience. For people that have not been to Dallas and then trying to convince themselves that they want to spend the New Year's weekend there, what sightseeing or restaurant would you recommend to people that are going to Dallas? And what do you think people would like to see? Mark, your experience.
Yeah, I'm going to totally allocate my time to Chris on this one. All I remember was having a really crappy time at the game because it took me forever to take 6 escalators to get to my seat. I'm not kidding. 6 escalators to get to my seat. And then as far as restaurants, I don't know. After the game, all I remember is myself, Lowell, and Michael, and Scott. We ended up going for pie and coffee at some place in the Arts District. That's my time in Dallas. So, Chris, please, where should everybody go?
What should they do and what should they see and where should they eat if you were recommending it?
So assuming you're going to be here for just a couple of days, the one thing you really need to see is you need to go to downtown Dallas. You need to see the JFK Museum. You need to see where he was shot. It's too important. It's too important an event, and to skip over that. You need to do that. And it's actually interesting when you go there the first time because you see the movie JFK, you see the Zapruder film, you hear about the grassy knoll. And I think that for me, at least, the first time I went there and I saw the dimensions, saw the size of it, it really changed my perspective on the event. I think I could have shot him from that window, and I'm not much of a shot. It's not very far. So I think you have to do that. There are a number of barbecue places here that, and Dallas is very much a barbecue place, and in Texas it's beef. You can find other things, but that's what they do here. I gotta say, my favorite is Hard 8, and I know I'm gonna take some heat on that online, but I think Hard 8's the best place. I like it better than Pecan Lodge. I like it better than some of the other places that you hear about. So, and there's one very close to the airport. So I would go there. Deep Ellum is interesting. They have some interesting bars and restaurants and things there. In Fort Worth, which is, good, about halfway, Arlington is halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth. That's where the stadium is. So If you're going to go to Fort Worth, they have the Stockyards, which is sort of interesting. Fort Worth has maintained that Western feel in a way that Dallas has not. Fort Worth has sort of embraced it. And they have some interesting things down there, including the site of one of the Old West most famous gunfights at the White Elephant Saloon. It's kind of an interesting story, and they have a little cattle drive and stuff like that. It's not the sort of thing that I do very often, but if you're visiting from out of town and that's outside of your normal experience, it's not a bad place to go hang out. And they have some restaurants down there where you can get a steak. So, if you're going to be here for a couple of days, those aren't bad choices.
I can't emphasize enough to what Chris just said about the 6th floor exhibit, which is the building in which John F. Kennedy, the building that Lee Harvey Oswald allegedly shot Kennedy from. I think what struck me the first, I was in 7th grade when the assassination happened with Kennedy. And for my whole life was hearing about the grassy knoll, the 6th floor, everything, the Zapruder film. When I actually saw it for the first time, it was like I was in a dream. It was so small, so miniature. And then I thought I had seen everything until the second time I went. And then I went up into the 6th floor exhibit, which they take you up in an elevator and you get to see basically where the shots were fired from. It's a wonderful experience. It's not just 100% the assassination, but what kind of led up to it, the mood at the time. And I'll tell you, when I looked down from that site, it changed my perspective on, yeah, he could have done that. The grassy knoll was so small. It was like target practice. I don't know how better to say it. Well worth it. You've got to, I would imagine that for those of you that want to go, you need to make reservations to see it. There's a presidential library you could go to. I think it's LBJ. If you wanted to.
Bush's library is at SMU, which is very nearby. And there's some interesting stuff there, particularly some 9/11 stuff that we're seeing. If you go to the JFK Museum, there are two other things nearby. One of them you can't find anymore because it's been wiped away. But Doc Holliday's dental practice used to be just a couple of blocks from that from the JFK Museum. He had a dental practice in Texas before he went farther west. It's now a parking lot apparently, but that's a fun detail. And there's a place a couple of blocks towards the freeway called Martyrs Park that has a very interesting history. Some slaves were hanged by a mob after they had been accused of trying to burn down Dallas. And there's an interesting story behind it. And there's a park there that that's been set aside. So I mean, there's some other things around, but if you're going to do just one thing, go to the JFK Museum. You need to see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, now in the tradition of Inside the Trojans Huddle and in symbolic tribute to the USC Coliseum home games, we are going to light the WeAreSC torch, signifying that we're between the 3rd and 4th quarters as we transitioned into our big 10 lightning round of 10 rapid fire questions and rapid answers. So if you're ready, guys, here we go. Question 1, yes or no, the defensive portal transfers into USC will be better than the offensive portal transfers. Yes or no, Chris?
Yes, and they better be.
Mark?
Yes.
Yes, I agree. Question 2, yes or no, there will be more USC defensive portal transfers leaving USC than offensive players leaving for the portal. Yes or no, Chris?
I think yes on that too.
Mark?
Man, I want to say yes.
Okay, and I'm going to say yes. Question 3, yes or no, running back Austin Jones will return to USC for one more season. Chris?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
I agree. Question 4, yes or no, running back Darwin Barlow will return in 2023. Chris?
If USC doesn't get a star running back in the portal, I think yes. If they do, then I could see him leaving. So I'm going to say yes.
Okay, there's a yes, Mark.
No.
All right, I'm going to say no. Question 5, yes or no, Corey Foreman will still be a Trojan in 2023. Chris?
Probably. I got to be honest. We talk too much about Corey Foreman around here, but I think he'll
yes or no
probably.
question.
I think he'll probably come back. I'll say yes.
Okay, Mark?
In 2023, Corey Foreman will be a Trojan. Yes.
Okay, and I agree with you. All right, question 6, yes or no, inside linebacker Shane Lee will still be a Trojan in 2023. Chris?
Yeah, he's going to be.
Mark?
I think he made it public. He's coming back.
Okay, and I agree, he will be a Trojan. Question 7, yes or no, USC will lose at least one assistant coach after the season. Chris?
Yes, that almost always happens, especially with successful programs.
Mark?
Oh, yes.
You said that pretty emphatically. All right, I think that they will. Depends on, of course, whether somebody feels they're actually taking a step up in the trade. Question 8, yes or no, Lincoln Riley will push to have the last names on the back of the game jerseys. Chris, yes or no?
No.
Mark?
Lincoln Riley has no say in the matter.
So you're saying no,
No.
right? Okay. I say no as well, but there will be pressure. Question 9, yes or no? Bellflower St. John Bosco 5-star defensive lineman Mateo Ugalele has narrowed his college choices to USC, Oregon, and Ohio State. Will he be a Trojan? Yes or no? Chris?
Yeah, I think he probably will be.
Mark?
Oh, he'll be a Trojan. We just don't know what position yet.
Okay. I think he'll be a Trojan too. I think actually the Tui Piloto All-America status and NUA probably didn't hurt. I will say that. All right, last question 10. Yes or no? 2023 USC season tickets will increase by 10,000 or more. Chris?
Yes, the excitement to see USC and Caleb Williams next year will be off the charts.
Mark?
How many season tickets did they sell this year? Do you know?
I don't think it's ever been disclosed, was it?
Not if it has been, I don't remember. Yeah, I'll say yes.
Okay, I will take a look at it from an optimistic point of view, and I will say yes. All right. All right. Fourth quarter. Turning again to the transfer portal. What has surprised you thus far in USC players leaving? What are your thoughts on seeing who the Trojans are bringing in or will bring in for a visit? Are you optimistic how things have started, basically? Mark, are you optimistic about what you've seen so far?
I think so. For the most part, I've been optimistic. I mean, there's really no big splashy names yet. I mean, you've seen names jump into the portal, and you would think, all right, well, USC's going to be interested in them, and then you find out that there's no interest. So I'm okay because they're addressing needs. Hopefully, they're evaluating really well, and because again, the players that they're throwing offers at, outside of a few names that you'll recognize, most of these players, you don't know their names.
All right, Chris, how do you feel about it?
I'm optimistic, not because of anything I've seen so far. I don't think we've seen very much so far. I think a lot of this is sort of out of our view. I'm optimistic because I think it's a no-brainer to land some front seven guys who can slot right in and play for a potential national champion.
Yeah, I think they've got their act together. I think they know on their big board who they want. I think once they get them on campus, I think it's reasonable that one Caleb Williams just might walk through the door to say hello. And from there, I think it's anything goes. I think anybody that they bring in who wants to actually come for a visit will have a very hard time saying no once they're actually on campus. All right, panel. Do you think that the second portal transfer window in May will be more impactful than the current portal transfer window that we're seeing right now, and why? Mark?
Yes, but differently. It's going to impact the team because that's when you're going to find out where most of the players who are on the roster are going to leave. You're going to have obviously the Cotton Bowl, spring camp, And that second portal opportunity is going to be, I guess, the revolving door. I think that's when you'll see that the impact from that window.
For point of reference, I believe the second window is May 1st to May 15th.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you think?
I think
That's
less
gonna be more
impactful.
important?
I think less impactful. I think the May window, that's going to be guys who didn't like how spring practice came out. And I'm just not convinced that USC is going to land a lot of difference makers from guys who are disappointed because they couldn't climb the depth chart at their old schools. I think the current transfer portal are guys who are looking to make a big step up, smaller school guys and others who think they can do something on a bigger stage. So I suspect this first transfer portal window will be the one where USC finds the guys it wants. And the second one will be where USC weeds out the guys that it doesn't want.
Yeah, I think that the first transfer portal window will heat up after the bowl games because they still have time after the bowl games for guys to make a decision. And I think after the bowl games, that's when the action I think will really start in, when players start to look at what their future is and what team they want to be on. I think the second portal window will be more or less trying to find players that they may have to replace from those that leave USC. Panel, there's been much talk about players heading for the NFL or the transfer portal. Give me an eligible name that you think could return to USC next season rather than go to the NFL draft or the transfer portal. Mark, who's the magic name?
I'm going to go Justin Dedich, offensive lineman.
Okay. Chris, what name comes into your head?
That's exactly the name I was going to pick. I don't think Addison or Thule are going to come back. And Shane Lee, I think, has already announced that he is. So I think the surprising ones, I don't think we're going to be surprised by anybody else other than Shane Lee, who I wasn't sure would come back.
Yeah, I thought, maybe I'm wrong. I thought that Dedich had mentioned that his plan was to come back. In fact, I don't know where he would go to increase his viability or whatever when that center spot is just right there for his taking. It makes a lot of sense to me. So I'll go with Justin Dedich as a person that's not going to go. And I think it would be a good idea for him not to go because I think he's enjoying his experience. And hey, if he's graduated, what a nice way to get a free master's degree paid for. All right, panel, class of 2024 prospect DJ Lagway from Texas announced that he's going to enroll at Florida. Were you surprised at Lagway's announcement, given that Caleb was just a couple of days from being named the Heisman Trophy winner and Lincoln Riley had visited Lagway? I believe it was the day before Lagway announced. What was the difference maker in going to Florida? Mark, you got any insight on that?
Cha-ching.
Let me guess what that means.
That's what it came down to. Florida is being very aggressive with their NIL package. They wanted DJ to be their class of 2024 quarterback. Fortunately for USC, their fallback option is that kid over there at Mater Dei, Elijah Brown. So yeah, it came down to dollars, period. And USC is never going to hurt for quarterback. Even during the Clay Helton years, they didn't hurt for a talented quarterback. You've got Caleb Williams now. You've got Miller Moss behind him. You got Malachi Nelson coming in 2023. I mentioned, the quarterback at Mater Dei in 2024 is eligible. This is the last position I will ever worry about at USC, regardless of who the head coach is.
Yeah, I assume that NIL money had something to do with it, but you could make an argument that Lagway should have gone to Florida anyway. Going and playing for Lincoln Riley, if you're the starter, means you're going to go to New York and you're going to get picked in the first round. But he has Malachi Nelson a year ahead of him, who is a much more polished product. I don't know if he's as good an athlete, but he's a much more polished product, and he's going to have a year practicing in that system before Lagway shows up. I could see Lagway looking at that situation and saying, man, I don't know, beating out the #1 quarterback recruit in the country who's 1 year ahead of me, That's a pretty tall order. And I don't know how many years I want to sit if I can go to Florida and play right away. That wouldn't be unreasonable. And I wouldn't pay millions of dollars for DJ Lagway. Because if USC needs a quarterback in 2 years, they'll pick one out of the portal. It'll be somebody who's proven and is a stud. I'm just not worried about it.
Yeah, I'll say this. Here's a name to keep in mind: Jalen Hurts. The fact that you could get a guy from transfer from Alabama to Oklahoma, and he has a really successful career at Oklahoma, and now is doing well in the NFL. And plus, I'll tell you what, 2024 is still a long ways to go, and it wouldn't shock me if Lagway at some point changes his mind. We see that a lot happening. I'm sure that Lagway was probably watching the Heisman Trophy ceremony just from curiosity. And even if he didn't, he certainly knows who the Heisman Trophy winner is now. And I don't think, honestly, that he's all that intimidated by having Malachi Nelson a year ahead of him, because Lincoln Riley could always say to him, look at Caleb Williams had Spencer Rattler ahead of him, and he beat him out. If you're good enough, you'll beat him out. But some kids don't like that challenge. I'll admit that. They want the easy way out. I'm not saying that DJ Lagway wanted the easy way out, because I think, as Mark pointed out, money talks. And in this, world that we live in, that's becoming a prime focus. But I don't think the DJ Lagway show is over by any stretch of the imagination, because there's a long way to go between now and signing date for the class of 2024. So with that, we go to overtime. All right. Interesting topic here. It should fire up the juices of any college football fan. Leaving out the Trojans Marching Band and its signature USC fight song, like Fight On and Conquest, in your opinion, panel, which college has the best marching band, and who has the best college fight song outside of USC? Chris, you're on.
It's Notre Dame, which has the best college fight song there is. I love Fight On, but the reality is that Notre Dame's fight song is more famous than anyone's, even more famous than Michigan's, who I would put in second place. And if you've been to South Bend to watch football game, I know you guys have. When the Notre Dame band comes out and plays that song in that stadium, it's impactful. So I'm going to go with them. I'm going to put Michigan in second place. Ohio State, who likes to claim they have the best damn band in all the land. That's their little catchphrase. I've been to the Horseshoe. They have a boring fight song, and I don't care about dotting the I. I think they're so overrated. I'd put Wisconsin ahead of them. So I'm going with the Irish.
All right, so here comes the Irish for Chris Arledge. How about Marc Kulkin? Who do you see outside of USC Marching Band and the fight song?
Yeah, that's the correct answer. Both first place and second place if USC is excluded. When you see the Irish Guard leading, I don't think people really understand that there is a size requirement for those guys, and they are big dudes. They could all play tight end or offensive line for Notre Dame if they weren't carrying the bagpipes. And then, again, Michigan, it's just both of those are just two iconic bands, fight songs. It's part of college football. It's Norman Rockwell, if it wasn't in a painting, what it would sound like. So, I mean, Alabama, you can throw them in there, I guess. But yeah, it's the Blue Bloods. It's the USCs. It's the Notre Dames, the Michigans, the Alabamas. And as far as Ohio State, you know what? I don't even know what their fight song is, but I like Hang On Sloopy. And I am looking forward to going to Wisconsin. I don't know what their fight song is, but I am looking forward to jump around.
Oh, Wisconsin, come on, man.
I'm looking forward to jump around.
Hey, Mark, who's buried in Grant's tomb? I will say this. At my high school, shameless plug, Alhambra High School in Alhambra, California, our fight song and our school colors, it was all Notre Dame. And it's amazing, of course, how many times in my 4 years in high school did I hear the Alhambra High fight song, which the lyrics were changed to adjust to our high school, but the song itself was the Notre Dame fight song. And then you go to other high schools and you hear others that play similar songs, Michigan or whatever. But there's nothing like listening to the school in college. That's their fight song. The first time I heard the Notre Dame fight song live and in person in South Bend, I was just blown away. It was so intense, so intimidating in some ways that you really have to be at Notre Dame to watch it. One of the things I thought was really cool, as bad as Charlie Weiss was as a coach, is when he brought out on purpose the Notre Dame Marching Band to the Coliseum. I'm sure you guys remember that. And to hear them and allow people at USC to listen to their band play the Notre Dame fight song is amazing. But I will say this, leaving out the bands, I really do like Ohio State when the dotting of the I, but more importantly, I love the discipline of a Big Ten band in general. It's like watching a military show, and I appreciated the ability of them to dot the I, and like Mark said, the Irish Guard, they're supposed to be like 8 feet tall because of the big helmet that they wear. That's the beauty of college football, the tradition of the bands. And to hear a school, like the first time I heard Michigan's band was, I think in person, was 69 at the Rose Bowl when SC played and beat them. I think it was 10-3. To hear them play the Michigan fight song was so intense as well. But I'll go with Notre Dame overall, because there is just something mystical about them. And you may hate the Irish, but you got to love the traditions that they have. So with that does it for Thursday's edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle. So until next Tuesday, a big thank you to our panelists, Marc Kulkin and Chris Arledge. And a special thank you to all of you for watching or listening to Inside the Trojans Huddle. Have yourself a great weekend. Go Trojans. And until next Tuesday, this is your moderator, Greg Katz, saying, beat Tulane and fight on, everybody.